last night post game listening to players was a real focal point for it. But even a couple days ago with Marcus Smart's comments, I think that was the night you were doing TV. So I think it was with Max and Wallach at the time post game. But first you had Marcus calling out the CLNS family here, yet calling out the Garden Report for being critical of him and his defensive play, specifically A. Sherrod Blakely, who, as we know, has a podcast, the A-List, part of the podcast and networks here that we've got at CLNS. So Smart calls out Sherrod and the Garden Report. And then you have Tristan Thompson calling out Kevin O'Connor by name post game, with after the report that he's not liked. He's point. I've been in the league for forever. Find me one teammate that didn't like me, and all the stuff that had gone on with KOC and Chris Vernon as well from the Ringer, and obviously Jalen and Jason, as was brought up earlier in this show, those guys talking about having a conversation, not getting down after that loss to the Sixers, going into the game against the Knicks and playing the way they want to play. Just, Jalen say, just be Jalen out there, just have fun, just play basketball. And even acknowledging that, some of the things that are said by the media, by people like us, by people that are, on talk radio, talking heads on TV, they hear the noise. They haven't, it's not the Bill Belichick mantra of block out the noise, eliminate the noise. They haven't been able to do that. It's really gotten into their heads. There's real estate in these athletes' heads, from schlubs like us, and at least I'll speak for Evan and I won't include you in that, but idiots like us ranting on about how we feel about what these professional athletes are doing out there on the floor, and it is impacting them. It is preventing them from having honest conversations with themselves, from talking and getting on the same page. Again, not my words, Jalen's. Is there a sensitivity there? Is there I don't want to say softness, that's not the right word, but what is it that you attribute all of that to that has contributed, obviously, to what they've done out there on the floor this year?
Human nature, because that certainly is, and it's hard to block out. I think the Tristan Thompson one is different only in that when you're talking about being a bad teammate, or the teammates don't like you, that feels a little different than the Marcus Smart criticism. I think Marcus was doing maybe a little bit of, and it was really funny because obviously he did the post-game interview on radio and let one fly. I literally, one game I go over to TV, we have an FCC violation by the time I come back.
Hey, now your fault. Now your fault.
I know. It's like, I wasn't,
Hands off.
I was 5 feet away, but I was over on the other, I was on the other side. I thought it was interesting that Marcus felt that way, but it reminded me a little bit of, Kevin Garnett would do stuff like anything, we'd roll our eyes, right? Anything to create an issue to be fired up about. Like, these mattresses in the hotel don't have tags on them. They don't respect us. It's not anything, right? You
took that personally.
Yeah, exactly. You'd make up anything.
Well, you can't sell it at that point. That's a big deal.
Yeah, and he would do that all the time. So I think there was a little bit of that, but I think Marcus certainly heard the whispers, and it's impossible. There's never been a harder time to block out the noise, right? I had a conversation. I'll tell you this, guys. I had a conversation with Brad Stevens off the air last night. We talked about this thing because I get frustrated sometimes, and we've already referenced in just talking for a few minutes that one of the things I do with Twitter, and I've messed with it over the years, and when you're in, right? You can't get out. I use it when I'm doing radio. I supplement our broadcast with stats that I don't have time to go into. I came up through television. It's television. Obviously, I'm not tall enough to do a game with Scal, but I came up through television. I put stats up on that are interesting to me as TV graphics, because that's sort of my background. So you'll put a stat up there, and people sometimes they get so argumentative and so CNN, Fox about everything that they want to argue, not only argue statistics that are facts, they want to take an opinion, instill it on you so that they can argue the other side. So the other night we had this beautiful symmetrical, I like, symmetrical mathematical stuff. And at one point in the game the other night, Joel Embiid had taken the exact same number of free throws as the Celtics in the season series. They had each taken 50. That's a great TV graphic, right? It's a great looking graphic. So I literally, I created it and I tweeted it while doing the game because apparently I don't have enough to do. So I do that. And people went in it for whatever reason, it went crazy. And then people are saying, well, over here, you're like Celtic fans, some Celtic fans are like, but the referees are screwing us and whatever. This is ridiculous the way they're screwing us. And then you have other people over here say, well, the Celtics, that's all they do is take jump shots, Grandy. Obviously, they're not going to get to the line. And I'm like, okay, people, I did not insert an opinion into this. Is just a statistical fact that is interesting to me. And it also gets annoying because that's what we say on the broadcast is that the Celtics are said that Joel Embiid is doing work on them. It's not about, but people just want to argue. And it was Brad said to me last night, he's right. Something Jeff Van Gundy had said to him about how taking all this stuff seriously. And maybe it applies to Marcus Smart. Maybe that's why it was on his mind, which is don't listen to opinions from people that you would not ask for advice. I thought, well, that's pretty good. And the Twitter world, a lot of guys and players, I wish they would do it. Certainly not mentioning anybody by name, Kevin Durant, get off social media because it doesn't help you. There's no reason to engage. In my job, I consider people, it's so funny they call them followers because I've always considered them customers. My job is to serve Celtic fans in any way possible. And there are times that I remember having just dragging a couple of people once about something that was, I had like a number reversed or I left somebody out and people went crazy about it. And I said, okay. And I wrote this little thing and posted it. Like, I'll tell you what, I'll try to be better. I'll try to be perfect, not make mistakes, all this other stuff. But everybody needs to sit a couple of plays out here and understand this stuff online. I do it for fun, for free, as a service to customers. And when you lose your minds about stuff, you're essentially coming at me because I'm painting park benches for community service and I missed a spot. Like, get it. And there's a great line. Who's I forgot who's the original Office guy who's like hosted the
Ricky Gervais.
Yes, Ricky Gervais. He had the best line ever about Twitter, which is that criticizing someone on Twitter for something that they tweeted is the equivalent of stalking someone and then complaining that they walk too fast. Like you're that I don't know what else. I'm not charging you for this stuff. I'm just providing a service. And to me, I loved it because it was a way to reach, Max and I are performers without an audience. And it's a way to interact with the fans that we don't get to interact with. So I love that at the start. But that, again, tying it all back to Marcus Smart and stuff, listen, use the noise. If it motivates you, go crazy. But how seriously do you need to take any of this stuff? And I think if Marcus Smart really was tossing and turning tonight over something Sherrod Blakely said, that's a problem. I'm just not sure it's true.
Yeah, I agree with that. And there's been a lot of noise this year. And it comes from people trying to figure out, because we all want to be experts, right? We all want to figure out, why is this team not performing the way that, well, it's got to be this, or it's this, or it's that, or it's this, or it's that. And it just comes from a natural frustration. And, we've vented on this show a million times about what we think is wrong, because we think that's what our job is, and to find a way to diagnose this is what's really killing the Celtics. And again, that gets back to the frustration this year. And, the thing with this team is, it's hard to block out noise, as you said, in this particular area of this era of social media where everybody's constantly on Twitter and everybody has an opinion about something. But the thing that we also have to acknowledge is this team does have real problems. As I've talked about what I feel like every single week, the hallmark of Brad Stevens teams have always been their defense. This team defensively is a nightmare night to night. You see defensive lapses you aren't used to seeing. And you try and figure out whether that's a Brad thing or a Danny thing or a player's thing. And the rational response that I've tried to say to everybody is it's collectively everybody's fault, right? When the Celtics are down every rim protector against Dallas and Luke Cornett's out there trying to, block shots and deter people from the rim, and, Porzingis is just, brushing him aside. That's, an unfortunate part due to injuries. It's an unfortunate part due to, some trades that have happened this year, Al Horford leaving, all those things. Everybody's just trying to play doctor and trying to assign blame in certain areas because it makes you feel better, right? Oh, well, Marcus Smart's not up to snuff defensively. It's like, well, okay, you could point out some examples of that, but then you watch some of the things he does, last night where he, does some heroics and literally wins then the game in the fourth quarter, right? He was 1 for 7 prior to, 5 or 6 minutes left in the game. And all of a sudden Marcus heats up and offensively, carries the team and everybody's singing a different tune. It's just part of the frustration this year. But offensively, I can deal with some of the stuff. Defensively, though, I just get really frustrated with the miscommunication. And, you try and figure out, is it because they haven't had practice time, because they had a shortened off season, they have new guys coming in? It's just like, but everybody wants to have an answer. And what I like about having you on, Sean, is like, you have the bird's eye view of here's, there's not one thing going wrong. It's a multitude of things. It's a weird season. It's the loss of talent. It's injuries. It's all these things combined together, which no rational fan actually thinks about, right?
Not hot takey enough, Sean.
Right.
Well, I'll say many things, as I often do. Rational fan is an oxymoron.
Right.
You're not supposed to be rational. That's your job. I'm not sitting here going, don't react badly. Don't scream that the coach should be fired or whatever. Be a fan. Be frustrated by the season. You should be frustrated. But if you want the real answers, unfortunately, it's more complicated than that.